Would you rather use this or this?
This is the Milwaukee Tools 2646 grease gun. I'm Brian Eslick from How to Automotive, and I'm going to show you some of the cool features on this tool. So come with me. So the Milwaukee M18 grease gun is loaded with a ton of features. One of those features is the thumb wheel you see right here. If you look on the switch here, it says on. So if I pull that trigger, it's going to pump grease as long as I'm pulling this trigger. If I set it to any one of these settings here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, all the way up to, I believe, 50 here, that controls the amount of pumps that the machine will do automatically for you with one squeeze of the trigger. So if you squeeze the trigger one time, if you set it to 1 and squeeze the trigger for one time, it's only going to pump one time. If you set it to 5, you squeeze that trigger, it's going to pump 5 times and stop. So where that might be important is if you're doing something where you're greasing the same fitting or something over and over and over, and you want the exact amount of grease in every time, you can set that there. So if you're doing like a manufacturing job or something like that, you can have settings. It goes, like I said, it goes all the way up to 50. So if I hold that, it's going to go 50 pumps, which is going to be a large amount of grease. So it did 50 pumps and stopped, and you can see right there. I like to use it in the on position, and so I'm in control of it. I'm going to count the amount of pumps. If I'm doing something that requires a lot of grease, I can just keep holding the trigger. If it's something that requires very little grease, I can easily let go. I want to share with you a couple features on your Milwaukee gun here. One, you'll see the number 2 and the number 1 switch here. So that's the pressure that the tool will pump out. So on different applications, you'll need different pressures. So pressure 1, which is here, and you see it pumped out 2 squirts, and it's a decent amount of grease. Now we're gonna switch it to pump 2, or position 2, I should say, and we're gonna hit it, and you can see it produces a lot more grease. Now, that's going to come in handy when you're in different situations. So for a small amount of grease, less pressure, would be optimal for something like this, where you're doing a tie rod in, where you got the bushing here. You don't want to explode the bushing. You just want to add a little grease to it. And then where you want the pressure to be high is when you got like a kingpin like this. So you need that pressure to go in the kingpin and up. Here's another scenario. So we got a leaf spring here. This pin goes through this leaf spring and holds it, but right here would be a grease fitting, and you would use the high pressure grease, and it would come out of a hole right here in the center, and it was supposed to lubricate the seal here, or lubricate the spring here. And as you can see, either it was never done, or it was so clogged up that it wouldn't do it. So you need that extra pressure on setting 2 to pump that grease through here to come out and then lubricate something like this. Lubricating a hinge pin like on a lift gate here, you want that higher pressure to get in there and lubricate all these fittings. And then on something like a steering arm or tie rod, something like that, you want less pressure so you don't overfill the Another feature the tool has is the ability to hook a lanyard or a strap to it. That way, if you're working up on something high, you can have some safety features so you can strap it down to yourself. So on this little box truck that I'm working on right here, 32 grease fittings alone on this little truck here. So, and this is a small truck. Some of these trucks, you can almost double the amount of grease fittings on some of these big trucks, semi trucks and stuff. So you definitely want to have something like this to make your life a lot easier. Servicing it, you just get the tip of wipe down, stick it in the holder here, clip it in, and now you're ready to store it. So to load your grease gun up, most of the time you're going to use a cartridge to fill it, but here at the shop we buy grease in bulk. And so I have a cool way to load up your grease gun other than the cartridge that you see here. So on the front of the grease gun, there's going to be a little plug. You remove this plug, and then you find a Zerk fitting like this, and you screw it into the front of the plug here. You got to make sure it's the right fitting. There's coarse thread and fine thread. It took a fine thread, pipe thread Zerk fitting. Screw that in here, and now what we can do is we can fill this with the grease gun that we have here at the shop. Since it's a large amount of grease, So we can go ahead and just hook up right here to our fitting, just pull the plunger back into the loading position that you see here. Once you got that done, now you can hook up to the front of the Zerk fitting here and pump it from the other end and fill it up with grease. It's a lot less messy doing it this way. So I just hook it up like this. No cartridges needed. I just fill it up until it's full. I know it's full when a little bit of grease squirts out the plunger end of it at the back. Now the grease gun is loaded up and I'm ready to go lubricate drive shafts and anything that I need to do, such as slack adjusters on these trucks. Here, this is for the air brake system, and it sure beats dragging this giant pump around to lubricate all this stuff up. So if you're interested in picking up the Milwaukee M18 grease gun, there will be links in the description of the video. Also, they're on the screen. There'll be a little pop-up so you can click those links and purchase that there. I'm Brian Eslick from How to Automotive. I'd like to thank you guys for watching and encourage you to subscribe.